Okay, we will call this meeting to order. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. I do have one from Deputy Mayor Bray regarding Committee of the Whole 3.3 Business Licensing Bylaw, as she has a business license. If throughout the meeting you find that you do, please declare it at that time. Before we get into our reports, I did want to make a comment. We have 4 reports on today's agenda that are by staff who have either rarely come to this table or who have never come to this table before. And I just wanted to say I was really impressed with the quality of them. They were fulsome. They had all the information. So well done to the front row over there. They were great. So now we'll really get you. No, just kidding. So the first is moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Boulanger. The Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that it approve an increase in fees and charges for Wasaga Beach Cemetery as proposed in the attached schedule, effective January 1st, 2020. Is there any questions or comments on this report? Okay, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Next, we have a motion moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Foster, that the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council the proposed parking fee changes and bylaw amendment as outlined in this report effective January 1st, 2020. Is there any questions on this report? Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had discussions with Jeff from Bylaw, and it's in regards to the increase with regards to our residents going from 20 to 25. And I voiced my thoughts and opinions. I'll go around this table here that our residents, there's many in our town that a small increase might impact their ability to access what we think is everybody should be accessing, our parks, our resources and stuff like that. So I'd really like Bylaw to relook at it and see whether or not raising it will cripple or hamper their ability to become closer to sustainable down the future.
Okay. Councillor Wells, did you have?
I think I'm probably going to be of the same mind as Councillor Kinney, and I'm just curious, how many resident parking passes did we issue for the 2019 season? Do we know that?
Not specifically, but I believe the revenue was around $52,000. So divide that by $20
Okay.
of what it costs.
So with the increase being proposed, what would that take that to? Like, just ballpark, what would that bring it up to, do you think?
Sorry, through your worship. Like, are you just wondering if we bump it up to $25, how much that would do?
What would be?
Probably, yeah,
An extra
65. So,
12,000.
yeah.
Sorry, an
around
extra
12,000.
6,500.
It would bring it from 52,000 to 65,000.
Okay. Yeah. Your Worship, that's the one item that I struggled with particularly. I don't think we have too many perks out there for our residents, and I'm not of the belief that we necessarily need the extra $10,000 or $11,000 on the back of residents for that parking. So I'm not a big fan of increasing that. The rest of the report I can support. I did have one other question, but so I'm not supportive of the resident fee increasing. If we are going to increase it to that level, if the majority of council think that's appropriate to increase it, then I would ask that you consider doing it, phasing it in over 2 years and going to 2250 next year and 25 the year after if the majority of council believe that that's appropriate. Personally, I don't. My other question was the lot fees. I didn't see it, maybe I missed it in the report. I didn't see any reference to the Glendale lot at the corner of Main and Glendale. Where does it fit into the structure?
So through your worship, basically for the Main Street lot, we're not looking to change it at all. It's $15 a day and it's away from the main beach area, so we were just going to keep it at $15.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Boulanger?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I know for many years we've been working to reduce the resident parking pass, but at the same time, at the end of the day, we're going to have a tax levy that is going to be paid by our residents. So by increasing the parking, at least the people that are using the parking pass will be paying a slight increase as opposed to spreading that to all of our residents. I believe personally it's a very good deal when you consider that a single day is $15 and $20 and you can get an annual pass for $25. So I'm kind of torn. I think in years where we're struggling to get the tax increases down, we should be looking at applying taxation to the people that use the service as opposed to spreading it to all of the residents that, so that would be my comment. Just one other thing too is, and to bring it to bylaw, there are some practices on the beachfront that do cost the town parking revenue where other private enterprise intercepts customers that are at our pay station and encourage them to park elsewhere, and I think that should be looked at in the next season.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bright?
Yeah, I see the $5 as a small increase to the user pay system. I think that 25% of the population buys a pass and obviously sees great benefit. The other 75% don't. If we do not increase it, then it becomes the other 75 that are subsidizing it. I'd almost rather see it be, 25 or 30 or whatever it needs to be to help the bylaw department, because we put a lot of pressure on them to balance their budget and to be a sustainable department, and then we take away any chance they have to increase their revenue. And the final thought was, I know when we first brought this model out, I had proposed that we have a free pass for those that truly do need it, so that there's some sort of an application process, like the accessible blue parking stickers. There's a process that people go through to actually ask for that consideration, but I would rather the price be set at a fair level for the bylaw department, and that those who need it then get help where they need it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Again, I see the merits of both discussions on this, but at the end of the day, Councillor Belanger said it's about the equivalent of a day or a day and a half for your payback. So if you go to the beach twice, if you use up one of our parking lots twice, you pay back. There's if we have a spectacular summer, you could be doing 85 trips down there and in and out. It's not so, as much as $20 or $25 may not be a big deal to some, and it is to another, and I'm not opposed to considering what the Deputy Mayor said, but I think just for this, it's probably worth moving ahead as proposed.
As proposed. Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I notice this hasn't been looked at since 2007. Is that where the $20 fee, has it always been since 2007?
Years old?
I think it's actually come down from the original one, hasn't it?
Okay, Rachel, did you want to address that?
So through Your Worship, the last time that we did look at all our parking revenue and parking rates was in 2013.
I was reading from the report, it says 2007.
Oh, that is the bylaw.
Right.
Was amended
But
in
the fees-
2007, yes.
But the fees,
Was looked at in 2013.
okay, that was $20 in?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone 6 years with not even cost of living, so, okay.
Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just on the suggestion of an application process for the people that need it, those kind of transactional fees, the cost to process that would probably be a lot more than just handling it in another way. So I agree that it would be nice to ensure that those individuals, that it is a hardship, that we could look after it, but there is a significant cost to doing that.
Okay, so we're just speaking about the report that's before us today. At this point, I will be supporting it. I think for $5, it does make sense to increase it at this point. So before I call the question, is there any other discussion? And I think I already read it, but I'll read it again. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Foster, that Committee of the Whole recommends to Council the proposed parking fee changes and bylaw amendment as outlined in this report effective January 1st, 2020. All those in favor? Those opposed? Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't have to vote.
Is he not?
No.
Councillor Kenny moved it, but he's not in favor of it. Yeah,
Okay. Dina, did you want to address that?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Kinney, as you were the mover of that motion, and you're wishing to not vote for it, we do need a new mover for that motion.
Your Worship, I realized that after I voiced my concerns, so I apologize.
No problem. Deputy Mayor Bray? Okay.
Thank you.
Try this one more time. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bray, seconded by Councillor Foster, that the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council the proposed parking fee changes and bylaw amendment as outlined in this report effective January 1st, 2020. All those in favor? And those opposed? That is carried 5-2 with Councillor Wells and Councillor Kinney opposed. Perfect. Thank you. Next motion is moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Wells, that the Committee of the Whole does recommend to Council that it receive the staff report of the Bylaw Administrative Assistant Licensing Officer on the proposed business licensing fee amendments, and that the Committee of the Whole does recommend that Council enact option 1 from the following 2 options to amend the business licensing fees and period changes as outlined in this report. 1, a 3-year phased-in increase in business licensing fees to begin in January 2020 and conclude in January 22. And the second option was a specified business licensing fee increase across the board that would take full effect in January 2020. So discussion? Oh, and I will note that Deputy Mayor Bray is pulled away from the table.
Thank you, Your Worship. In moving that, I'm in favor of the first option, option 1, which is a 3-year phase-in. Again, we're talking relatively small amounts of money, but what we have, I look at it and say, this year coming up, 2020, part, if not all of that year for business at the main end and on Main Street is going to be impacted by bridge construction. So those businesses will have a bit of a challenge anyway. One might argue that if the tourists are stuck waiting for a light, they can get out and shop, but I'm not sure that's the right approach. So I'm supportive of a 3-year phased-in piece that, we just move it along as opposed to the second option. So that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just some clarification. I've been contacted by a couple of businesses, and my understanding is we've gone to a 2-year licensing and a 2-year inspection process, and which is fine, but some of the people that have contacted me are getting to an age where they're not sure they're going to maintain their business for 2 years, and when they've asked bylaw if they would be closing their business with a full year already paid, whether or not any money would be refunded, they're hearing that, well, maybe, but not, yes, it will be, or no, it won't be. And I think that there needs to be some clarification within the bylaws so that that a business would know exactly whether it's prorated or whether it's annually or whether there's no refund at all.
So through your worship, just to address your question, I believe that you're speaking specifically about retail businesses, correct, which are on a 2-year licensing period currently. So if you refer to Appendix D of the report, it actually is addressing this. So we've listened to a number of complaints from business owners, and we have proposed that we go to an optional 2-year and a 1-year business licenses for retailers. And this is not only to address concerns that have been brought to us, but also to take into account some of the problems that are faced by fixed point retailers, especially in our local economies. So this is definitely something that I think that if we move forward with the recommendations that staff have proposed, this would be something that would be addressed very clearly, I believe. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so I have read the motion, which is supporting option 1 from the report. So if there's nothing more, all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Carly. Next is moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that staff execute the proposed Toys for Tickets campaign between November 27, 2019 to December 17, 2019. Is there any questions on this, Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had discussions with Bylaw, and I think it's a very awesome idea. I wish other enforcement agencies might consider that, but that's my own little thought process. But I also pose to them, and I think it's just a timing requirement this year, that possibly in future years we look at starting at the 12th of November to give a longer thing, but not infringe on Remembrance Day.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Got off easy. And next is the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report, Arena and Library Grant Application. It's moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Belanger, that Committee of the Whole of Council as Budget Committee recommend to Council that it approve for grant application purposes the preliminary estimated capital and operational cost projections for the new arena and library buildings per Appendixes A, B, and C, and further the committee recommend to Council that it approve the submission of the application for funding from the ICIP Community Culture and Recreation Stream Multipurpose Intake, and further that committee authorize the Treasurer to sign a completed confirmation letter regarding Council's approval as per the attached example in Appendix D. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Oh, Jocelyn, you got off easy too.
Just wait.
And next, it's moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Wells, that Committee of the Whole does hereby recommend to Council that Colliers International be selected to provide project management consulting services for the town of Wasaga Beach to oversee the design and construction of the town's new Twin Pad Arena and Library in accordance with their response to RFP REF 2019-01 at a cost of $513,500 plus HST, subject to Council's formal approval of the contract for the provision of project management services. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor Foster?
I'm in support of it from the start, but I do like in the final paragraph when they're talking about some of the projects that they've brought to the table. So they've done exactly what we're proposing. And Collier, I know the name. If you drive through any big city, you see them. So I just think it's good. They have experience in Twin Pad Arenas, libraries, Triple Pad Arena, etc. So I think that's really important, bringing that to the table.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, so we will adjourn Committee of the Whole and take a 10-minute break and come back and do our special council meeting.